Hello, Scorpios. Welcome to our monthly zodiac reading for the month of April 2025. We are going to, again, focus on Scorpio risings, but in case this reading does not resonate with you, please check your sun or your moon, because that may be the area that is being activated by the that may be the area of your chart that is being activated by the astrological transits this month. As always, we're going to pull an overall energy theme for the month, tarot for each week, clarify that with more tarot, as well as correlate those messages to the astrological transits, and then wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what Scorpio risings need to know for the month of April. The Horse King in reverse, and this is control. Scorpios, don't you know that part of our soul's journey is to relinquish control at this point in time? Don't you know that? This is card number 42. 4 represents stability, and 2 represents choices and harmony. And sometimes I think the way people try to create stability in their life is that they try to control the external environment. And in reality, there's a lot within the external environment that we can't control, but we can control how we respond to that external environment. And that is the choice that we can actually make, right? We can create that safety and that stability within ourselves. And that is a healthier choice because it allows us to be in control of ourselves while simultaneously relinquishing control to things that we actually don't have control over. Okay, so let's see what the tarot has to say. Here in the first week, the 3 of Swords in reverse. So this can represent healing and accepting certain heartaches and separations, right? When the 3 of Swords is in reverse, this is kind of something that we've had to, it's typically already occurred, and it has to be something that we are already, that we can't control, right? So we have to come into this state of acceptance when it comes to whatever is separated, whatever we've separated from, whatever we feel this loss and heartache around. We have to accept that this is what is happening, and that actually allows us to kind of release that control. This is the week that we have Venus retrograde, sitting alongside the North Node in Pisces, as well as Saturn in Pisces. And here we have Saturn within the sign of Libra. So Venus retrograde is having us really reevaluate what it is that we value. This could be having us reevaluate what it is that we value in the context of relationships and love. And it could actually have us reevaluate how we value ourselves in the context of relationships and love. Now, this evaluation or reevaluation is aligning with the North Node in Pisces, and Pisces represents surrender. Saturn being in Pisces has had a lot to do with surrender because Saturn can't really control a lot whenever he's in the sign of Pisces. So this is something that you're having to accept, really having to accept that there are literally some things out of your control, no matter how heartbreaking. Here in the second week, the Page of Pentacles in reverse. So this can represent that there is you're waiting on an opportunity that's not really going to come. Or you're waiting on a message of an opportunity that's just not coming. Or it could represent that there's a lesson that needs to be learned. There's a lesson that's not being learned in regards to finances, value, or the material world. And also, it can represent that there's a need to be more practical, right? The page is there saying, like, look, we need to be more practical about the steps that we're taking, or we need to be more practical about what we're expecting when it comes to our physical environment. This is the week that Mercury is going to go direct within the sign of Pisces. Mercury is the planet of thoughts, ideas, and communication. And within the sign of Pisces, he probably has a really hard time focusing, right? Because Pisces has no boundaries. It's boundaryless. It's ever flowing. It's very fluid energy, which is really hard to control, right? Imagine holding water in the palm of your hand and trying to control how much of it you can actually contain. And the chances are that not very long into that little experiment, you're going to realize that you can't control that at all, right? So Mercury is having a really, may have a hard time focusing. However, it can bring around allowing us to be a little bit more fluid with plans and expectations, right? Pisces sits in your 5th house. So this has a lot to do with experience, has a lot to do with children, has a lot to do with romantic one-off love affairs, even your self-expression, right? And creativity, right? So Pisces in this house is quite lovely. However, it can be a struggle because, again, if we're experiencing the world in a certain way, there are things that we cannot control. And unfortunately, we have a hard time accepting that with Pisces because Pisces is very dreamy. Sometimes it can be delusional, right? Are we being delusional about what we can control when it comes to children or our lived experience? That is happening on the 7th. On the 12th, an honorable mention is that the sun in Aries is going to be sitting next to Chiron in Aries. So this is really it's having us address wounds around our sense of self. Okay. And that could represent, our sense of self. We like to maybe idealize that we are in control when in reality we're not. Here in the 3rd week, we've got the King of Swords in reverse. So the King of Swords in reverse is when he's in reverse, this can represent someone around you who is using words or even intellect to manipulate you in some way. Or it can represent, and that could even be you, or it can represent that there's a real struggle with overanalyzing and a struggle with maybe anxiety and things like that. Okay, so there could be a need to be a little bit more flexible and less rigid. This is the week that we experience the full moon within the sign of Libra. Libra, for you, sits in your 12th house. The 12th house governs mental health, right? And the 12th house governs the subconscious, fears, our mental health, faith, spirituality, things that we legitimately can't tangibly see or touch. Okay, so this full moon maybe is illuminating where you're not addressing any subconscious beliefs, right? Are you not actually putting in the work to address these tendencies to overanalyze? Are you not addressing the work required to address control issues or address fears that contribute to any sense of control or desire to control? That is what the full moon in Libra is probably going to be illuminating for you guys. This is when we also have Mercury in Aries is going to be sitting next to Neptune. Neptune has just recently moved into Aries, and this transit could be a little tricky, but it essentially, our thoughts, ideas, or communication could really take on a much more dreamy tone. Or it could very well be a little bit on the delusional side, right? Maybe Neptune is about sacrifice. Maybe Mercury sitting next to the sign of Neptune around the time of the full moon, you may realize what needs to be sacrificed in order for you to actually gain some sort of sense of peace and be able to see things from that higher perspective. We also have Mars moving into the sign of Leo on the 18th. Leo sits in your 10th house. So there could at some point exist a real desire and motivation to really get things moving on your career. Okay. Just try not to overthink it. Try not to overanalyze it. Leo can be very, very confident and was bolsterous, I think, maybe like braggadocious, things like that. So just be mindful of your words and your communication and how you're going about expressing what it is that you're thinking, right? Because there's that fine line of aggression and being overly confident. Okay. On the 19th, we have Taurus season. Anytime the sun moves into a new season or we change astrological seasons, that is when the themes and qualities of that energy begin to take center stage. For you guys, Taurus represents your 7th house. So this is your long-term relationships, long-term contracts, or business partnerships, right? Our interpersonal relationships. Here in the last week, we have the Two of Swords. You guys are in your head. And there's quite a bit of Libra energy here. So this is either going to have a lot to do with your subconscious, like your 12th house energy, or it could also maybe have to do with your relationships. But because Libra sits in your 12th house, I'm going to say it probably has a lot to do with that. The Two of Swords is we're having a hard time emotionally making a decision. And I say emotionally because the moon is tied to this sign, right? Anytime Libra has a hard time making a decision, it's because their emotions are involved. They're not sure which way they want to go, and therefore they're avoiding making a decision. So the new moon in Taurus, again, Taurus being in your 7th house of committed partnerships, business contracts, and interpersonal relationships, could be triggering this feeling of, I know I need to make a decision, but I really don't want to have to make it. I don't want to have to make it. And the thing about Scorpio is that Scorpio has the tendency to hold on to emotions, even if they're uncomfortable, because that way they feel safe in that discomfort. Scorpio is no stranger to feeling uncomfortable. No stranger to feeling uncomfortable. So they would rather stay in a place of discomfort because it feels safe and familiar than have to make a choice that would make them feel uncomfortable. But the new moon in Taurus is providing an opportunity to really look at things from a much more grounded and stable aspect. The Two of Swords also provides an opportunity to really follow your intuition with the moon being present and the individual is blindfolded, right? They don't want to see what choice they're having to make. They would just rather pull that Band-Aid off, follow their gut, and make that choice. So let's see. The Two of Cups, or Two of Pentacles, I'm sorry, and the Five of Pentacles. Okay, so the Two of Pentacles is really making a decision on what it is that you want to juggle, right? What do I want to invest my time into, right? We're looking at, again, twos, having to make a decision. We also have twos here, really figuring out what choices you're making that could maybe even contribute to this feeling of feeling left out, feelings of hardship that you're encountering, right? There's a need to maybe accept that you're just in this space of hardship and you're really just having to make these decisions on what it is that you really value. What are your priorities, right? If you're trying to control something within the material world, which we see here with Pentacles, that something is ultimately out of your control, you may have to separate from that idea that, like, I cannot control this. I value my inner peace more than I value material gain. So I have to make the choice to accept where I am and to surrender to the hardships that I am just facing at this time. right? And that's a really difficult pill to swallow. That's a really difficult pill to swallow. However, with Saturn being present in the first week and within the cards, Saturn's probably playing a very heavy role with you. They're like, look, until you relinquish control, you're not going any further, right? So you're gonna have to make a choice whether to heal and accept where you are or continue to wallow in this sense of hardship and feeling like you're being left out in the cold. Here in the second week, the Page of Pentacles in reverse, the King of Cups, okay, and the King of Pentacles. So it feels like here with the Page of Pentacles, like I said, it's like you're waiting on an opportunity that's not going to come, which I think reflects here with the King of Pentacles in reverse, like being so focused on the material world, being so focused on your job, so focused on your career, so focused on your finances, which is understandable. When instead, if you're facing these hardships and you're putting in the necessary work, but at the same time, it's still not quite producing the security and comfort that you're looking for, it may mean that the security and comfort you're looking for is actually needs to come from the King of Cups and not from the King of Pentacles. And the King of Cups is a very healing energy. He's a very emotionally regulated individual. His heart is very open, right? This is a lot of heart chakra energy. He's open to receive whatever comes his way, no matter how small, no matter how big. He's open to receiving all of it. But that cannot happen unless he is in this space of emotional regulation and balance. And it could be that the Page of Pentacles in reverse is saying the lesson that you're not learning is that emotional balance will always supersede the King of Pentacles, will always supersede material gain. Always, 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 especially for you guys, Scorpio, when it comes to the zodiac, all the 12 signs have a polarizing energy, right? You could take those 12 and divide them by 2 and you get 6, and each individual has a polarizing or an opposing energy, which is what we see happen when it comes to the nodal axis. For Scorpio, that opposing energy is Taurus. Taurus is material gain. It is material value. It is material possession. It is money. Whereas you guys are the opposite of that. You are spiritual gain. You are emotional gain, right? And it looks like maybe you guys need to learn like I said, learn that the lesson that needs to be learned is that the King of Cups in your life will supersede the King of Pentacles. And maybe that's just right now at this time until Saturn deems otherwise. But right now, this is where you're at. And you need to surrender and accept that. And you're probably going to get really tired of me saying that. But you know what? I'm a Scorpio rising. And I have several planets in Scorpio. So I'm going to have to re-listen to this message for myself anyway. Here in the third week, the King of Swords in reverse. The Devil in reverse, okay? And the Seven of Wands. Okay. So it feels like the King of Swords is having to maybe think about, he needs to stop over-analyzing these obstacles and challenges that he's coming up against. Stop overthinking them. They are what they are, right? Stop overthinking them. They are what they are. And instead of focusing solely on the obstacles, maybe focus more on the discipline required to overcome them. And that discipline is actually what is going to allow you to free yourself from these fears, these limiting beliefs, or the devil's grasp, so to speak, right? The devil's control, the ego's control. Focusing solely, and again, discipline is very much, it's a Saturnian thing. Boundaries, restrictions. The very humanness that makes us uncomfortable is very much a Saturn thing. And here, the King of Swords in reverse is like, instead of overanalyzing it and overthinking it and focusing solely on these obstacles, I need to focus more on the discipline required to overcome these obstacles, right? And for the discipline, that's going to come from the King of Cups. It's going to come from the emotional regulation. Because the Seven of Wands is direct. This is perseverance. It's resilience. Two things that are beautiful words to describe Scorpio energy. If it were reverse, it would indicate that there's a lot of self-doubt around overcoming these obstacles. However, when the King of Swords is direct, when he finds that mental discipline to overcome even temptations or means of escapism, again, because we are talking about 12th house energy with the full moon in Libra, escapism and things like that, temptations, addictions, whether that's TV, social media, whatever the case may be, relationships. When he finds that discipline to overcome those temptations, that is when he feels the strength and fire to continue to fight and persevere through these challenges. So that's what this third week, that is what the full moon in Libra is probably going to illuminate for you. Where you need the discipline that you need is going to come from that 12th house energy. It's going to come from addressing your fears. It's going to come from addressing any past wounds. It's going to come from addressing these subconscious foundations and beliefs. Here in the last week, the Two of Swords, the Nine of Swords, a lot of anxiety, maybe staying up late, and the Eight of Cups. Essentially, it's like you're gonna have to make this choice at the end of the week with the new moon in Taurus. I can either continue to wallow in anxiety or I can move on and I can explore what I need to explore emotionally. I can heal what it is I need to heal emotionally. What am I going to choose? Am I going to continue to stay up late, worry? Am I going to continue to allow these ruminating thoughts to control me? Or am I going to go on the journey that is needed to help me move through this? That choice is yours. Now, I did mention this could potentially involve a relationship. It could be that if the relationship itself feels very unfulfilling or for any reason is unhealthy, toxic in any way, you're probably encountering these challenges and you're really at a position where you're trying to decide, do I want to continue to invest my time in this, hoping that it will be better? Or am I going to move on? Am I going to allow myself to address my fears and move on? Okay. That will not resonate for everybody. It was just kind of like a little side note. I want to do this one. But this is a really powerful reading, Scorpio. Like, it really is. Let's see. Yeah, your commitment's being tested. Of course it is. Like I said, this is very Saturnian. Saturn is here. Having to accept where you are. Your commitment is just, it's being tested. These feelings of feeling left out, like you're just constantly enduring hardship, financial hardship, hardship in relationships. Your commitment to your growth and to what it is that you want is being tested. Saturn is testing you. And if you can learn the necessary lessons that Saturn is trying to teach you, specifically within the month of April, this is all about surrender and acceptance, radical acceptance of where you are. Then you're not, like I said, you're not going to be able to move forward. Saturn's going to be like, you're not learning this lesson, and until you can, I can't let you go anywhere. Like it's the boundaries, it's the restrictions, it's the limits that we feel. So your commitment is being tested. Communication is key. It could be that, and when it comes to emotional regulation, the King of Cups, when he communicates with people, he's very compassionate. He's open, he's accepting, he's very understanding, right? So if there is a person that's around you that may be struggling, could be very controlling, maybe very selfish, you can approach the situation with compassion, empathy, and understanding while simultaneously stating your boundaries and what it is that you need. Do not forget the communication is a two-way street. And just because you communicate your boundaries does not mean that that other person is always going to be receptive, but you have the power and choice to choose one, am I valuable enough? Do I value myself enough to express my needs and what it is that I desire? And two, I'm not responsible for how that other person responds. I'm not responsible for that, okay? So communication, and it could be even communication with yourself, right? Are you very critical? Are you controlling when it comes to how you think and feel and behave? Okay? Communicate with yourself. Self-talk is so important because it reaffirms what we genuinely believe of ourselves or think of ourselves. Take time to breathe out. Finding that discipline, and it could be that that full moon in Libra actually may feel more like a reprieve. It may feel more like a reprieve, and it may feel like the I will say it, for lack of a better term, excuse you've been looking for to move forward, to finally relinquish control without feeling guilty and allow yourself to just take a breath. This is just where I'm at. I'm going to have to accept it. How can I handle it moving forward? Don't let your past hold you back. Ruminating thoughts, fears, and worries that keep you up at night, it's time for you to move on from them. You can, like I said, you can choose to stay where you are and continue to feel this anxiety, continue to feel this worry and this dread and all of the things that come along with that, or you can move on and not let your past hold you back any further. I truly hope this helped, Scorpios. I hope you guys have an incredible, incredible month, and we will see you next time.